All right, welcome everybody to the very first ever Flashpoint podcast. Essentially, this podcast will serve as hopefully the industry's shortcut to what is happening and actually matters in the world of retail and CPG tech, with as much of a focus on AI as the entire industry is putting a focus on AI. I'm Sam, this is Akriti, and welcome to episode 1. Essentially, how this podcast sort of came to be and is now happening is me and Akriti both work at a company that works in the retail tech space, right? Called Smarter Sorting. They're the ones putting this podcast on. And me and Akriti talk every day about the news and the world that is the retail tech space, right? Akriti's in marketing, I'm in sales and growth. We have a lot of conversations about the ever-changing industry that is retail tech, and especially AI. So we kind of found that we're having all of these conversations, and we both already listened to a lot of podcasts, and these podcasts that we listen to, while they cover a lot of what's happening in AI and in tech, very little of the podcast world is actually talking about the retail industry and how it's affecting the retail industry, which is one of the industries it's having the largest effect on. So from all of the podcast advice I have heard over my time of listening to both fun and funny podcasts and also news and tech podcasts, the biggest piece of advice I've heard is if you want to make a podcast that's actually fun to make and can reach people, you do that by making something that you're already talking about and are already interested in. So essentially what we're going to be doing is talking about the AI tech retail news. All right, so let's dive straight into it. So starting off with a few bombshells and a few overarching stories. Typically what we're going to be doing is talking about kind of what's happened in the last week of retail tech. But since this is the first episode, I think it's smart to sort of talk about some of the more overarching things along with a few bombshells. So the first one, as I spend all this time talking about retail, isn't retail related at all. The biggest news in the last week in the AI space that a lot of people have already spent a lot of time talking about is going to be Fable 5 being taken down. For those of you that don't know, last week, Claude AI released the model Fable 5, which was their strongest model ever, like every model release is. And almost immediately, they got a response or a letter from the government saying, hey, you have to take this down in 90 minutes. Why I think this is suspicious is, one, they're about to IPO, and with everything that's happening in the White House and this administration right now, the IPO stuff with SpaceX, it all smells a little funky to me. It was an Amazon worker that was the one that found the security risk with this jailbreak thing that Claude is saying doesn't exist. And they were the ones who reported it to Commerce. Commerce then told Claude to shut it down. But Amazon is Anthropic's largest investor. So I find it kind of interesting that their largest investor is reporting them to the government right before their IPO. I don't know. It sounds interesting. They have a lot of meetings scheduled today. We're recording this on Monday, the 15th. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of those conversations and if Fable 5 goes back up. I think one of the things that actually could come out of this is the fact that people might have to, when using AI, show some proof of citizenship, which I think gets very dicey very fast. Showing ID, showing passports when creating accounts in order to keep these powerful models out of the hands of foreign bad actors. Yeah, so that's the Fable 5 situation. Hopefully we'll know more by next week or by even the end of today. So that leads us into a couple other big things that have happened in the AI world. And this is where I'll sort of say one of the big things that we're going to be talking about a lot, as is everyone in the retail space, Akriti has spent a lot of time working on this and talking about it, is agentic commerce, right? It is the number one most talked about thing in any meeting, in any division of a company that's trying to grow. Akriti did a study, which we will reference a lot, when talking about agentic commerce, that she did a few months ago. How long ago did you do that, Akriti?
Yeah, that was, I think, published at the beginning of this year, so in January.
So in January. Also, everybody, that's what Acreedy's voice sounds like. If you listen to this podcast a lot, you'll know that Sam rambles and talks forever, and then Acreedy talks and says actual truths and real facts that are researched and known. So, so she did this study back in January that we'll talk about a lot, that essentially proved how much agentic commerce is not currently working, where 72% of all steps tested across 5 different AIs failed, or at least partially failed. So when she did that study, there was a study that before hers that had said that by 2030, $1 trillion of commerce was going to be done with agentic shopping. McKinsey now, again, 6 months, 5.5 months later, says that by 2030, they're expecting $3 to $5 trillion. So in 5 months, it's gone up by 300 to 500% of commerce is going to be happening in some form of agentic space, whatever that's going to mean moving forward. The IDC projects that 15% or 10 to 15% of all IT spending is on agentic commerce, and 26% of IT budgets by 2029 is going to be on this. So that's going to be a lot of our conversation, starting with the fact that Amazon recently opened up its AI shopping stack to other retailers, starting with Kate Spade, right? So they've had all of these tools. They had Rufus forever, which they then, discontinued and pulled into Alexa. But now Kate Spade is offering this AI shopping consultant. I think they have AI gift concierge, which chats about customers and what occasion they're buying something for, what the gift should be, what size, what color, all of that stuff. And my big question for this is, like, we've seen these chatbots before. They're getting better and better, and that's really cool. But is it worth it for these retailers to trust their customer data, their personal data, and customer relationship on Amazon stack, right? It's the classic like buy versus build payoff. And I don't know if this is something that if I was running a retailer or if I was running a brand, I would want to shift all of my interest into. It feels like a pretty big, here's all of our customer relationship just to get to use Amazon's chatbot. I don't know. It feels like Amazon is getting a much bigger pool out of this.
I will say, like, something that I've seen is it seems like a lot of retailers are kind of outsourcing these AI efforts and their agentic shopping to other companies such as Amazon, Anthropic, Google, OpenAI. And that gets tricky because, like you mentioned, where is the data coming from? And, I'm sure Amazon, especially compared to like an OpenAI, may have more data, but I don't know if it's enough data to actually make the shopping experience fully agentic and not just a chatbot helper. And I think that we've seen a lot of in kind of the like gift concierge. Even the name is almost like a helping you shop or helping you pick out a gift rather than actually doing the shopping for you.
Yeah, it's sort of the big question of AI in retail, right? Is the real prize of the power of AI creating a chatbot? Like, the next thing that we were going to talk about is Dick's new like personal AI coach, right? Who knows how old you are, what level of experience you have in a sport, what sport you're playing, and it knows those things because you tell it all of those things, and then it tells you what you should buy, right? And like, there's obvious value in a chatbot that knows you, right? Like, I don't think it's crazy to say that having a chatbot that knows what you're looking for is nice, but the investment that people are putting in, and it doesn't feel like the real prize to me. It feels like we are waiting for the first company to say, we are running this aspect of our company on AI. Real decisions, real impactful decisions that used to take dozens, hundreds of hours, days, whatever, is now automated. right? Like that's just happening through computational reasoning, and it isn't just AI fear. It isn't just here's another chatbot who goes, "Oh, you're 8. Here's a helmet for 8 to 10-year-olds." Right? Like I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of it. I think it's going to be a lot of what people classify as agentic shopping, and to hit that $3 to $5 trillion. I think a lot of just shopping where an AI chat pops up at the bottom is gonna. I don't know. That's. I'll be interested to see if these things stick around or make a real impact, I guess, is kind of what I'm saying.
And I think the only thing I would add to that is just to clarify, like for the audience, I think there's a distinction between, I think what we're trying to get at is there is using chatbots to kind of walk a customer through the customer experience and show them different products. But there's also a difference between that and actual agentic shopping, which indicates that you can actually get the product shipped to you and have the agent do, pick your size, send it to your address, etc. We're not there yet. We're still at the point where all of these AI tools, they may recommend a product to you based on the information that you give them. You still are going to have to add it to your cart, check out, and put all of that information yourself.
Yeah, and when that agentic shopping thing, that switch happens, is it doing all of that and is it getting it right? Right?
Exactly.
Like, is it like it's doing all the shopping for you and then you're not opening up your door to 25 packages that are all the same thing and nothing is actually what you wanted, which leads exactly into one of the next things we're talking about, which is OpenAI pulling back on ChatGPT, having an instant checkout, right? Having the agentic shopper in ChatGPT, and they're pivoting to just discovery and leaning into retailer apps, right? Not their own. They discovered that the buy it with ChatGPT instant checkout that they did with a few big retailers, I think Etsy and Walmart, maybe Shopify, letting users buy inside of the chat. They did that in mid-February, I think. And then by March, they walked it back. Checkout moved to connected apps, and the multi-cart items system was gone. Right now it was, we'll discover the item for you. And that's their whole value prop to these retailers and brands, is the discoverability of their products on AI, which still doesn't work great. It still doesn't really find what you want. But I think it's worth mentioning that even OpenAI, which really them and Anthropic, and I'm Gemini also, of course, but like, and all the big players, they're all finding out that how hard retail is, how many moving parts there are, how many different classifications and regulations there are, and how many rules there are that flow through the supply chain where it comes to, shipping, storage, moving it, selling it, marketing it, disposing of it. All of those things need to be tracked and maintained, and how they're currently doing it isn't working, or it's not working all of the time, which means it's not working, right? Last couple things that we're going to talk about on this first one, because we've, talked your ear off about agentic shopping. It's just a couple Walmart updates that happened in the last couple weeks that I think are really interesting. One is the fact that Walmart, I think this was on June 4th when this statement came out, Walmart is going to be rolling in restaurant shopping, restaurant ordering into their delivery apps. And while maintaining themselves as this like massive convenience app with their delivery and with everything else that you can do in their app, now they're sort of trying to turn into the ultimate I want it right now app, right? Like it's a shift that we haven't really seen before from a brick and mortar retailer. Obviously everyone moved into online shopping forever ago, and now they're moving into AI, but to move into the DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates space, I think is really, really interesting. And it's going to be interesting to watch who owns that moment, because DoorDash did the opposite of this already, right? You can already get your groceries on DoorDash, but now we're going to start seeing major retailers trying to absorb that business, the restaurant delivery business, which I think is just also, we didn't give much background on ourselves, but I come from the hospitality space, where I worked in hospitality technology for a long time. And it's just going to be one more headache for every restaurant. They're going to have their DoorDash, Uber Eats, and now Walmart delivery apps that are going to be everywhere. And I don't know. There's a couple other down here in Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas. There's HEB, obviously. Everyone knows here everything's better. They have an app called Favor, which is sort of like this. Favor existed, then they acquired it, and it became their like groceries delivery app. But it's also a restaurant delivery app. I don't know how many states Favor is in, but it's biggest in Texas. What isn't? But it'll be really interesting to see who owns the "I want it now" moment. Like who's going to really take control of that. I don't know, Crudy, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it also almost highlights how the biggest competitive advantage right now is data and having strong data, and being able to use that, because Walmart wouldn't be able to do this if they didn't have, a huge active user base already using Walmart delivery, and like on their third-party marketplace. People are buying, using the Walmart app to buy products all the time. And so they already have this huge active user base. And so it makes it a lot easier for them to kind of try different avenues and not just stick to what they have, which they've already done with a third-party marketplace, which, there are also issues with because of the lack of data, since they're using third-party vendors and it's not from themselves. But I think it's just really interesting because it highlights the stronger your data is and the more you have of that data, like it's easier for you to expand, try new things, and kind of really like own your customer base.
And do it well from the jump, right? Not learn by failing if you have the data behind it. For anyone who is listening, this is going to be another talking point that me and Akriti talk about a lot, is how data is everything. How good it is, how fleshed out it is, how you apply it is your company. And I think it's a great point to bring up that Walmart is able to do this because of the user base and data that they already have. I think that's a great point. And then last thing to wrap up for this first episode of Flashpoint is one more Walmart thing that, again, I kind of want to just talk about on a grander scale. So Walmart CISO laid out their 2026 cybersecurity priorities. The biggest reason that I kind of wanted to bring this up and end on this is, while AI is growing and while all of these different tech solutions for the retail industry are growing, I think it's really interesting that now security is a public, like board level talking point. Like for the world's biggest retailer, Walmart, they are using security as a talking point because as they grow, one thing we didn't talk about today, but they've recently shifted to all electronic price tags. So the actual price tags are electronic. And I think that, we could talk about that for a whole hour on the fact that Walmart now has the ability to do surge pricing and to change. They also have the ability to do specials in the blink of an eye. But as they increase the amount of tech solutions that they're using and the more AI that they're using, I think it's very interesting that more and more it will be a public selling point for companies, retailers, and brands to be like, we're using AI, and they're going to have to, hand in hand, talk about how secure it is. Like we already had this a little bit in the tech world with, privacy, right? How much of a buzzword and important thing that was to consumers, right? Apple ran huge campaigns all about the fact that you're safe here, right? And now retailers are going to have to start doing that. If they're going to be using these tools, they're going to have to be talking about how their stuff is safe. And I think it's always worth remembering that while these tools are extremely powerful, if you're not using them correctly, if you don't have good data, if you don't have a strong infrastructure around it, every new shiny retail toy is a new door for attackers and for people who are, bad actors in the industry.
No, yeah, I also feel that it's very, very interesting. And it's not just retail, but across so many industries that traditionally are not very tech heavy. There is such a focus on cybersecurity because with the increase of data, there is a need for, protection of that data, especially when that data is personal and includes your address, includes your personal preferences, information about you that could be identifying. And so I think it's really, really interesting. And I think it is positive because it highlights how much these retailers are understanding how important this is, and kind of safeguarding themselves. Hopefully it's a risk that there will be no attacks or issues with it, but it'll be interesting to see how cybersecurity plays out and how it develops as time goes on.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Well, we brought up Acridi's study earlier. Again, we're new to podcasting, so I'm going to say we'll link it below. I don't know what that means, but I think for people who are interested in how agentic commerce is currently working, it's kind of eye-opening to how much it isn't. And I think that's something that people should look over if they have the time. All right. That's it. That's it for Flashpoint episode 1. Thank you to anyone and everyone who's listening. Acridi, thank you for talking to me like you do every day and letting me ramble about the 5 or 6 things that are really interesting me that week. All right. Well, that's it. That's episode 1 of Flashpoint. Thank you for everyone who's listening. If you did like this, tell someone else in the retail space who wants just a little Monday morning or afternoon or whenever we end up publishing these, that wants a quick little flash of what's happening in the tech retail, and the retail tech and AI space. And yeah, let us know. Also, by the way, we're open ears here. We love conversation. If we said something wrong or something that you don't agree with, tell us about it. Reach out to us. Let us know what we know. Let us know what we don't know and what we should have known. Because we're really excited to be able to do something like this and talk about the stuff that we already love talking about. But yeah, all right. For Acridi, I'm Sam. Thanks, Smarter Sorting, for putting on Flashpoint. But yeah, thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.